Today, we're going to be checking out the Angmar from Corrigan Pickups. So I've had Corrigan on the channel pretty recently. I demoed their fucker pickup, which was like this colossally high output, ridiculous thing that was meant for like doom and sludge. And while the Angmar is definitely geared towards metal, it's definitely not something like that. It's not like colossally high output. In fact, it's not super high output at all. It's actually more of kind of like medium to medium high output. And that's interesting because, you know, a lot of metal pickups are going to be pushing pretty hard. I tend to like pickups that push pretty hard, but what are the advantages of having something more of kind of a medium hot output? Well, because it has less winds of copper, it's not going to have that kind of top end kind of shaved off, as well as that extra kind of girth from the low end, because that's what happens. I've talked about this on the channel before. The more you wind a pickup, of course, it has higher output, but you're going to start to lose top end and gain low end. So this stays tighter while also having more top end, more cutting upper mid range, which kind of gets that pick attack, that clarity, kind of that aggression, you know, helps push the frequencies that you want to push. If I did have to compare it to something, I'd say it's almost kind of like a passive active kind of feel, because a lot of old school active pickups anyway are underwound, and then they have a preamp that boosts their output higher. And this kind of gets, you know, similar effects as that, where it's now tighter and it's pushing more upper frequencies and upper mid-range frequencies instead of just a ton of mid-range or low end that you get with a higher output passive pickup. Now, even though it's still tight, it's definitely not thin, and it's pushing top end, but it never gets like shrill or harsh or anything like that. I think they voiced it really well to kind of balance out how this was going to be hitting the amp, and they didn't want, I'm assuming they didn't want anything that was super fat or too thin, or, you know, too cutting and harsh versus too dull. And so I think they found a pretty good middle ground with this thing. Now, one other thing too is it's a ceramic 8 magnet. Ceramic magnets tend to be pretty classic for metal pickups. It tends to be what I prefer in the bridge position. And this pickup, being a metal pickup, they actually only make it for the bridge position as well. So definitely intended just to be a well-voiced metal pickup for modern metal players. So that about covers it. There's not a whole ton else to say about it. So that pretty much covers it. There's not a whole else lot to say about the pickup. We heard that inside of a mix, and we're going to hear it outside of a mix as well on the same setup. So that's going to be going to my EVH 5153 Stealth 50 watt on the red lead channel. And it's also going to be going into the green channel for a little bit of cleans. And during the clean parts, I will have my Strymon Blue Sky reverb on just for a little bit of flavor, because clean tones with nothing, no reverb is kind of boring. And that's all going to be going into my Captor X, which has a IR blend of my DV77 and VM1265 speakers, which if you actually dig that, I do have a link down below to a Dropbox if you want to download that IR and check it out for yourself. But let's hear how this sounds outside of a mix. So I do think the pickup is well voiced and well balanced. Like I was saying before, it's pushing kind of those cutting, more pick attack kind of frequencies that you definitely want to push. It's full enough that it doesn't sound thin, but it's not so full that it needs like a boost or something to help make it sound tight. With an amplifier, you can just go straight in like I did with my EVH and get a plenty tight tone with it. I will say personally, I still prefer something chunkier that's pushing more mid-range overall. I really like it when something slams like my amplifiers or something like that. It's fine if I have to pair something with an overdrive or something like that as well. That's just kind of how I like to do things, but that is not anything against the pickup. I just tend to go for a bit hotter pickups in general, but even still, this for a more medium hot pickup, typically I'm not into those at all, and this played and felt great. Obviously, it sounded great. I really liked not just it on the lead channel, but I thought its coil splits sounded really good. Typically, coil splits on a bridge pickup, I actually find them to be a bit tinny and twangy and thin. But this just stayed really nice and lush and pretty. I was actually kind of surprised at how good the coil splits were for the clean. So it makes this thing a lot more versatile. I would be curious to know your thoughts, though. I will have a link down below if you want to check this out or anything else from Corrigan. But thanks for watching. Stay metal.